All right. Thank you once again for joining the next episode of Logos Pathos Ethos. I do appreciate you all for coming in and spending the next 30 minutes with me. I'm going to wait another minute or so to give a couple of people the time to come in and join us. Thank you so much for joining us this day. I hope everyone is having a good week so far. And I hope everything is working in your favor. And even if it isn't, it still is. Thank you for the two people that just came in, whomever you are. Thank you so much. You don't have to necessarily, speak or announce yourself, but your presence does it all for us. So thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So tonight, we're going to talk about time. And I have to be honest with you again about something. Tonight, we're going to talk about time because I think it is something that is severely misunderstood. And we're going to start off talking about time, but then I'm going to have to change the direction of the conversation and talk about space. Because after I get through explaining space with you, then we're going to be better situated to talk about time. And then after we get through talking about time, then I'm going to shift again and we're going to have a real conversation about time. Now, I have to be honest again about something else. Not that I would never ever be disingenuous with you, but before we go any further, and before you take anything serious that I'm about to say, let's make sure we understand our terms. We are here because on some level, the things that I'm saying to you resonate with you. They resonate with you so much that you, to my much appreciation, you show up week after week wanting to hear a conversation about something you normally would not be able to converse with the average other person about. You've had some of these ideas in your head floating around wanting to work them out. And when you finally find someone else that thinks similar to you, it's like a really good, warm, well-deserved and needed hug. You gravitate towards that person because you're resonating with their spirit. You're resonating with their soul. You're resonating with their essence. That's all we're doing week in and week out. So don't think that I think anything less of this platform or the people that join me week in and week out, just because we may have started out at 50 viewers, gotten as high as 70 viewers, and now we're down back to 18, 15. Understand me. That just lets me know that they weren't one of us, in the sense that we understand and resonate and respect and appreciate each other because of the way we think. So if we ended up with only 5 people on this platform, we're still going to show up week in and week out and converse amongst ourselves and have these weekly conversations, because I feel that they're very, very important to the human experience. Case in point, I'm gonna tell you a little story before we start the show. I remember when I was a kid, and it's a true story. My dad and I went to the movies, and this was, way back, way back, when they used to have like a lot of video games in the lobby area, and that was near the concession stand or popcorn. So when you walked into the movie theater, you would hear a lot of video games going off and smell the butter popcorn. Oh, I miss those days. I miss. That's why I love the movies. And then you have a movie that you're going to see. So it just all adds to the ambience, right? And I remember whatever movie it was, I wasn't interested. As a kid, I had to have been about maybe 7, 8 years old, something like that. And I remember my dad gave me like $1 or 2 or something like that. And I went into the main concession area where they had the video games and played the video games while the movie was going on. The adults didn't get up and leave the movie theater and join me to play the games, nor did they require me as the kid to enjoy the movie, which was something that I could not relate to, much less find an interest in. So they politely allowed me to exit the movie house and go and play video games until my quarters ran out. Think of our conversations the same way. If someone does not find this interesting, or you're unable to understand it, or you're just maybe not interested, that's okay. We're still going to have these conversations, and those that would like to play video games and listen to, whatever it is that you do, if that's what makes you a better person, so be it. But I assure you, you will end up back here. And here's why. We are all dealing with something called time. Time is something that is very precious. And the conversation we're about to have tonight regarding time, you usually don't have these conversations until like maybe around our age, 50 or so. You start. You only have these kind of conversations at a younger age if you were raised in a war-torn country, if you had a life-threatening illness as a child and you could lose your life, or you have to endure some type of condition where your quality of life may not be, like most other people. But if your life doesn't endure those extenuating circumstances, you usually won't have these kinds of conversations or think about them anyway until like around 50 so years old. And something hit me, blew my mind when I really thought about time. The first thing I had to do was I had to look up the definition of time. And let's just go off of a couple of definitions first before we talk about what time is. Time is the indefinite, continued progress of existence. The indefinite, continued progress of existence. Another definition was a point of time. Now, this is the definition. They say you don't give a definition by using the same word, but this is what they said. A point of time as measured in hours and minutes. Okay. Another way of looking at it, time. These are definitions of time. plan, schedule, arrange when something should happen or be done. Thank you so much, Invictus. Thank you so much, Fat Boy, for joining us. We appreciate your presence. Thank you so much. And everyone that's with us still watching, thank you. So these are the working definitions of time. Now, listen, y'all. We're about to get deep. We're about to dive in at the 10-foot side of the swimming pool. So I'm telling you right now, if your attention is divided, calm your mind. Because if you don't follow me, every single thing that I'm about to say, I'm going to lose you and I'll probably never see you again. Not because what I'm saying isn't making sense, but because our minds are not still and we're not paying attention. I need you to focus. The definition of time is the indefinite continued progress of existence, a point of time as measured in hours and minutes, to plan, to schedule, or arrange when something should happen or be done. That is the definition of time. One of the other definitions was they said time is the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is time. Well, fourth dimensions, what the hell is 1 through 3? What is one dimension? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. Thank you, Brother Kevin, for showing up. Thank you. I'm glad you asked, what is dimension number 1? What is the first dimension? What is the second dimension? What is the third dimension? What we're going to do right now is we're going to stop talking about time, and now we're about to talk about dimensions, space all around you, space. And the better you understand space in terms of how this is about to be explained, the better you're going to be able to see time. Whenever you talk about dimensions, you're basically talking about space. Space is understood in terms of, as of now, four dimensions. You may ask, what is the first dimension? Or better yet, let's go here. Can something have 0 dimensions? Glad you asked. In math, you have something which is a dot, a point. A point, this thing right here that I just drew, this dot, this point, whatever you want to call it. This dot has 0 dimensions. It has no width, no space, no length, no height. It's just a point. Now, by the way, for those of you that don't like geometry or trigonometry or mathematics in general, you're about to love this. A point is just a point. It has no dimension whatsoever. Okay, that's the 0 dimension. What is the first one? I'm glad you asked. Now we have 2 points, which is equivalent to a straight line. A straight line is the first dimension. This is not something philosophical. This is not something that I am making up. I'm explaining to you about where you live in space. A single line is the first dimension because we have 2 points. What happens when you take these 2 points and multiply it by itself again? Because you started out with 2 points. Now you have 4 points, don't you? Everyone recognizes this. It's a square. That's the second dimension. So now let's stop for a moment. The 0 dimension is just a point. The first dimension is just a line, whether it's up, down, left, right, just a line. The second dimension is when you multiply it by itself because you started out with 2. Now you have 2 more. Okay. That gave you a square, something that has a height and a length. Okay. A square is the second dimension. You ever heard somebody say, man, you know, we live in a 3-dimensional world. Do you know what they mean by that? I'm going to show you what the third dimension is. So when you multiply it by 2 again, you make another square, don't you? And lo and behold, look at what we get. That's 3 dimensions. We have a cube. If you want to know what a cube is like, it's kind of like this ornament that I have. A cube differs from a 2-dimensional object in that a cube or a 3-dimension has a front, a back, a side, another side, an up, and a down. The same thing I just showed you in this. So the first dimension is 1 point. I'm sorry, 0 dimension is just a point. The first dimension is a line, and that can be anything like a piece of string, a straight road, anything you can think of. The second dimension can be a circle, a square, the computer screen you're looking at me on right now. Then you have a third dimension, something that has a length, a width, and a height. This is science. And science said time is the 4th dimension. So now I told you we had to understand space in order to understand time. But everything we just got through talking about was just space. We talked about some definitions regarding time, didn't we? But now we get a chance to talk about time because we understand space, since they say time is the 4th dimension. I personally, and this is just me, okay? I'm going to be very honest with you. I think time, the best definition of time, should be just the rate of change. That's just my opinion. And what's interesting about time is it has a peculiar characteristic about it. Time flows only in one direction. as far as we know as of now. Time only flows in one direction. Now, reason with me for a minute. Just think about it. You have a definite beginning. However old you are, you know the date that you were born. You celebrate it every year, I believe you do, your birthday, because that's the beginning of you. But there were events before your event. We call that the past. But here we are now talking in real time with each other. And we're here now. This is the present. We're here. And it's moving on as we speak. And that which is yet to come, whatever that may be, that's the future. You never hear and calculate nor understand time from in terms of the future to the past. Our species understands time from the past going forward into the future. And there's a big debate in science, and it's been raging on since the days of Einstein, because he didn't believe in time travel and all of that. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about time travel. But the point is, they've always agreed that the basis of time is past, present, future. Even if you believe in time travel, you still understand your fundamental core central anchoring belief in life is past, present, future. So because there is a specific flow about time, that means that if it's from past, present, future, and it's going in a specific direction, that's implying travel. No one in their right mind even considers time. If you're trying to get from point A, as we said earlier, this dot to this dot, to this dot, you're traveling to different points. And in order for you to know when you will get to that point, you now have to know how fast you're going, how far you are from the point. And based on that information, you'll know what time in the future you'll arrive at your destination. So since time is understood linearly, excuse me, how do you say it? Linear, it's understood in linear fashion. I always go with this more simple word. It's understood in more linear fashion. You don't think of time up, down, left, right. It's just always from the past to the future, through the present. But time, in implying travel and in implying destination, notice how we always use time and we understand it from our starting point of our birth, leading to an eventual destination. And this is the part where I want to have the conversation with you about, because this is real. And it's just as real as your birth, as it is just as real as the points on this piece of paper, this three-dimensional model on this two-dimensional canvas. If time is going in a specific direction, it's quantifiable. We can calculate it. One of the things that we grapple with is the end of our time. When I realized that one day you will not be here, Ron, when I really realized that, I began to have a different relationship with time, which has affected my relationship in my, friendships, loves, family members that I care about, the people the stranger that I may meet. It's affected everything in my life because I realized something about time. When I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I will not be here one day, that made me appreciate the moment more. It made me appreciate the moment more, so much that since I know I'm not going to be here one day, it doesn't make sense to play games with myself. And that's why you don't usually have these conversations, as I said earlier during the show, that you don't have them usually until about 50. Because up to this point, life is moving too fast. We got a lot going on, and we're not slowing down to realize our inevitable end. But such as everything. But when I really realized that time is something that you are not promised. And I can prove time exists as easily as I just proved to you these dots. I had made up my mind. I had a friend of mine I was speaking with or trying to speak with. I've been sick over the past weekend. And this person said, man, whatever it was, it was a misunderstanding. And he was like, man, you're not mad at me or whatever. And I said, brother, when I realized that I won't be here one day, or as I said earlier, time is best understood as the rate of change. I realized that brother, sister, girlfriend, whomever you love, mother, father, sister, brother, there's going to come a time when something's going to change and they're no longer going to be here. Whether they leave voluntarily out of your life or whether they pass away, the circumstances of their departure is of no consequence. The reality is they're here now and maybe not next time. And it is with that reality in mind, you cannot help but be fully committed to appreciating the now. Appreciate the people that are alive or with you or sharing this moment with you in their existence with you this time you have, because it is a sure thing. At the rate of change, time will move on and things will change. And knowing how fragile life is in and of itself, and this valuable thing, this precious thing we have, time, I made a commitment and I meant it. And I hope you make the same commitment in whatever fashion in your life. I love my mother too much to ever be angry with her ever again. I love my cousins I love my family. I love my loved ones. I love people in my love. I love you watching this show right now, even if you disagree with every single thing that I am saying. I am telling you, I love you so much and appreciate life so much. I am not your enemy and never will be under no said circumstances. Because when I realize the time that I have with you is few, I want to appreciate and use this time appreciating you, enjoying you in my life, such that I'm getting on your nerves. Why? Because I understand time moves on. And I want to take this moment in as best as I can while I have this time, because it's not promised to us. And some people, they have a kind of, you know, a cynical way of looking at what everything that I just said, where it is, they may say, since uh, time is something that, you know, is fleeting. Um, they start living for other people, and that's fine. That's fine. But do know that when it's time for you to go, you go. And as far as we've all seen with our own eyes, ain't been no part two, ain't been no part three like the movie theater. When you're out of here, it's over. And we don't know what's on the other side. And that's what the big bet is. And that's an argument for another day. But what I do know is, because they sometimes, because people see that inevitable end, then what they will, thank you, Invictus, what they will do is they will start trying to act out of fear of the unknown, of the inevitable end. So because I'm afraid of what's on the other side, and I do know that this inevitable end of time in terms of my own experience will have a punch clock date, then we start behaving out of fear. Or we start saying, I'm just afraid of dying. What is it going to feel like? What is it going to be like? And if that is your concern, I want to end this. I want to address that concern, and then I want to let you go. If you're afraid of what's next, because a lot of us believe certain things, all of us believe certain things, and some of us believe nothing. I'll say this. If you're afraid of that, think of it this way. If I had a gallon of milk and the milk was in my refrigerator, after I drink all of the milk, what do I do with the carton? I throw it away. Not because the carton is a bad thing in and of itself, but because the essence is gone. And once the essence is gone, the milk carton is just a milk carton. Have a good night.